Hi, I'm Fred. Our goal today is to, last but not least, give you a rough overview about what happened within the last 12 months on iOS with casual games. We are in a mission of building the largest sample of data points in terms of usage for iOS games. And how we do that, we collect public data. We are fetching the usage of 444 and growing million players daily across 400K games in the app stores. What does that mean? It means that, as said, we started to collect those public data a year ago, and we are focusing on the 12 top countries in the app stores. We are filtering the top 1,000 games for every single category, country, business model, and device. And then out of that, we filter the games which have public leaderboards, meaning that there is public data about usage available. And then we build KPIs, dedicated KPIs on what we call the active players, which is kind of super DAU. Loic will tell a bit more about that later. New players, retention, and what we love to call what we'd love to call overlap, which means which players have been also involved in other games. What that means in terms of data? So we are processing 2 billion lines a day. It's about more than 420,000 games that we are processing. Out of that, 41% were Game Center enabled. You know that Game Center is compulsory on iOS if you want to be featured at least once in the App Store by Apple. And 39% of the whole universe as a public leaderboard, which is a very strong base to start understanding usage patterns on iOS, especially for casual games, because of course public leaderboards are very close to casual games gameplay. We are processing that daily, which means about 43,000 games are screened, because not every single game is screened daily. It depends on the activity of this game, which represent about 53 million scores. So what did we get out of that, and how actually those 434 million players played last year? What does that mean? That means in average, about 80 million is active on a monthly basis out of these 434 registered users on Apple Game Center. 37 million are active weekly, and about 4.7 million last May were active on a daily basis. We've been building an index, checking which game and ranking each game by their number of players, by their number of what we call scorers, super active. And basically the spread is following. If you rank between 1 and 10, you are above 320K daily active users. If you rank about 100, it's about 50K daily active users. And if you rank by 12, rank up to rank 300, it's about 12K. So it's really, as you may expect, a winner-takes-all game. And just take into consideration the top 3 games for the last 12 months, where they have been representing about 50% of the Game Center activity on iOS. So which categories are over-indexed in the App Store in terms of active players? Interesting is to note that about 50% of games are either in arcade or action categories. So those two categories are overrepresented, which also, of course, means that it's very close to the gameplay and fit to the casual type of game. Second part of our analysis has been to focus on some game archetypes and to understand, go through game archetypes and see who has been actually very active and what KPIs have been significant to bring this game forward during the year. I'll pass the word to Loic.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through the method that we put in place to analyze the game on the Game Center. So first of all, the first KPI is the active players and the distribution pattern. what you got to understand is that the active player is someone that submit a score. So it's not open the apps, it just go through the whole, game and submit a score at the end. It's pretty easy when it's come down to like, 2048, but it can be like more tricky for like a different kind of game, like, Fallout Shelter, or so on and so forth. We also use the data in order to identify who are the new players, so the players that just install the apps and then, once again submit a score and identify the acquisition pattern. If there is like a UA campaign in place, we can see did that happen. And after that, we analyze the retention, so how many of these new players come back, the next day, the next week, or the next month. And then the overlap, which is like considering the player of a game, which other game are they playing in the same time for the same day or the same week or the same month, okay? So basically, we identified like 4 different archetype of game. So obviously the all-star game, which is super well-known, strong install-based, very high retention, and a very long lifespan. The booming newcomer, which is like a new game with a very, very fast acquisition pattern, strong retention, and again, long lifespan. And franchise game, franchise game is also a fast acquisition pattern, but a short lifespan and weak retention, and the portfolio strategy for like big publishers that release a lot of game during the years and recycle the user from one game to another. So the first one is the most downloaded game on the iOS is Subway Surfer. It's like 115 million install on the Game Center. It's like 1 billion globally cross-platform, but it's 1.15 million on the Game Center. It's 7.5 million per week and around 1 million per day. As you can see, there is like no acquisition pattern. The blue curve is like the new user per day, and there is like a released probably around like April that make the spike, and the orange curve is like the active player per day, and you can see that there is like some kind of a bumpy curve that is like the weekend. It's a game that is played the weekend. So what is the DNA of such a game? It's the most downloaded game, so it's a very, as I said, like strong install based and strong player base. And there's like 10% of the active user that are new user per day, so it's represent around like 100,000 install per day. There is no acquisition pattern, so it's only organic growth. So the D2 retention is pretty low, and but the D8 is really high compared to the D30 is pretty high compared to the other. They are like really good on that, and they share the player based with like no other runner. It's like the superstar of the Game Center, like Stack, Bulky 6, or Crossy Road. So basically, this is the first archetype. The second archetype is the booming newcomer. We picked up Color Switch because it was released late 2015, and it's got like a crazy success with like 20 million installs, like around 7 million player per week, and 1 million player per day, around 1 million player per day. There is like some kind of serious acquisition made up until like April, end of April or so. So what's defined the booming newcomer? The booming newcomer is like is piece of acquisition, which is really high. 7.5% of the daily active players are new player. So it represents like 80,000 install per day. Once again, it's not install, it's install that goes through one game and submit one score. As it's a steady and targeted acquisition, the day 2 retention is way better than the Subway Surfers ones, and they are like super figure for D8 or D30 retention. The overlap with other superstar of the casual games, like Subway Surfer or Stack. The third archetype is Angry Shark World. It's a Ubisoft game. It's a franchise game that is basically the next game after Angry Shark Evo. So there is like 4 million players, 3 million.2 per week, and around like 500,000 per day. As you can see, the acquisition is really, really fast. It's about a week to reach like 500,000 player. So the DNA of this kind of game is like successful launch, because we get like this amazing acquisition pace. Around 6% of the daily active players are first-time players, so it's like 50,000 install engage per day. Superb targeted acquisition, so very high D2 retention, but it's kind of the average copycat game, so the lifespan is like kind of low and kind of short, so you have like not that good D30 retention. As you can see in the overlap, they recycle the user from Angry Shark Evo to this new game, and you know there is other stars of the game center that are also played by the same player. And the last one is the portfolio strategy, and we picked up Stack from Ketchapp. It's a game that reached like 20 million user installation, 3.8 million players per week, and around like 400,000 per day. Kind of a strong acquisition that come from like cross promotion with other game of the Ketchapp catalog. And the DNA of such game are like fast acquisition pattern, thanks to the cross promotion. 13% of the daily active users are new user, like first time player. It represents like around like 40,000 installed per day. The retention is really good on day 2. But most of the time it's like kind of a simple gameplay, so it's a snack game, so the lifespan is pretty low. That's why the D30 retention is kind of low. And you can see that it overlaps with other game in the same kind of game. It's like one single level, super casual snack game. And so the winner is for like this year, the best game for us is like Color Switch. As you can see, as a sum up for that, the retention is through the roof. It's like really good. It's a really good figures, and it lasts because like it's like 6 months, and it's still on top of our ranking. So now we're gonna go through like the key learning of this analysis.
Yes. I'd like to point out the success of Color Switch here, especially because it has been done by 3 developers out of France and 1 influencer out of Australia, actually a rapper, a rap singer, and they achieved such a pace, and that's what we note here in the key learning. There is still a way to reach the top without big investment in casual gaming, and Color Switch is definitely the example. Even if it's a long way home to stay at the top, and you really need to feed your user base with tons of organic downloads. Of course, the number 1 downloaded game, Subway Surfer, is the best example for that. What's also very important is that recycling user in terms of bringing your old user to the new version of the game, or to a new format is very useful in terms of UA cost. User acquisition is still possible on casual gaming, even if very often the equation LTV CPI doesn't sound right. So keep in mind that retention is your most important KPI, and we can help you with that. to make sure that you don't face the so-called hiccup syndrome, where you spend money and lose your users, especially because you're not good in your day 30 retentions. Thanks a lot, and welcome for any questions, any points. Subway Surfers is communicating and said that it's the most downloaded game across platform, Android and iOS ever. Okay, the source is Subway Surfer. Then we took all the games which are Game Center enabled on iOS, and this is number 1 on iOS. So we've been building some estimates, and we consider that in terms of usage, not in terms of revenue, it should be around ranked 100 to 120. So it's far below, of course, PvP or RPG games where the LTV is much higher, of course. But still, I would say Subway Surfer, from what I've heard, and this is subject to checking that with them, is the LTV is between 12 and 20 cents.
You have 4 different type of retentions and the graphic you show. For a casual game, at what point will be best of the industry? Like over 7%, always over 10, or you need to reach 15? What percentage you say you're good, you're over industry average, or you at top industry average?
Well, I would say it's really depending on your gameplay. If you're a social casino, the T30 retention is very important because you have paying users. And I think I've spoken very quickly with some social casino makers, and they say under 15%, we leave the game. Okay, we kill the game for social casinos. When you are by 20% on casual gaming, you're very good.
One last point on this one is like it's super interesting to see. You know, there is like a strong effect of like user acquisition on D2 based on like super targeting right now, and usually you see like the best game and the rockstar game are like evaluate on D30. If you're able to retain your user from 1 month to another, it's where the gameplay and the interest of the game come into play. The super acquisition cannot cheat the D2 retention, because with like only organic, it's not that good. You know, you need to have like super targeted acquisition in order to have like a good D2 retention.
You have to keep in mind that most of those games cannot afford user acquisition. Okay, so they have to build their user base out of the IP and the quality of recycling users from other games. That's, for example, what Ketchapp is doing extremely well, what Ubisoft managed to do, even if when you see the curve and the usage pattern for the year, you can really understand that Ubisoft is investing in bringing the users, because the retention, the 30-day retention is pretty low.
All right, well, thank you so much. I mean, I think Fred and Loic will stick around for a one-to-one question if anyone has.